right, and exactly what that personnel is going to look like. But everybody in front, as well as the wingbacks, and of course your two stars up top.
Messi looking for Suarez. It's been a few years since we saw that combo in the summer of 2020 at Barcelona, but this is your first glimpse at it again.
Joe, being based out of South Florida, you and I were talking about how, camp started 6 days ago for these guys, right? Hard to believe that that is actually the case, because you got to witness it firsthand that they're well beyond a week's time together, correct?
They look fit, they look ready, and I would be curious to see how long certain guys go tonight, given the schedule they have coming up. But the fact that they're all in the 11 tells you they're fit, they're ready. Pictures were circulating around social media that saw a shirtless Leo Messi, and he looks just about as cut and fit as ever. So I think they're ready for what is coming in the few weeks ahead.
I'd make the argument that Luis Suarez looks the best we've seen him physically in quite some time as well for his stint down in the Brazilian league. He, we'll say, looked different compared to years past, right? And
aesthetically.
Exactly.
Performance-wise, not necessarily.
The metrics were still there. Anybody who drops 26 goals and 17 assists over 53 appearances in all competitions is doing something right.
It's a very new roster for El Salvador. I mentioned the new head coach, Javi Doniga, been in the club ranks most of his career. This is Brian Tamacas centering it, earning the first corner of the match. He just took over on January 2nd. The Salvadoran side that had been wayward for the better part of the last year. They haven't won a game since June of 2022. They've dipped to 78 in the world rankings, 12th in the CONCACAF rankings. They got relegated from Nations League. So looking for a new leader. Seem to have found it. Had been an assistant with Panama for a couple of years, 2021, 2022. From Spain originally, assistant coach, places like Real Betis and Malaga. He's got a very strong pedigree. Let's see what he could do now, trying to turn the tides for El Salvador. This is a heck of a first game to be coaching in. I don't know if he would have thought his first game in charge of El Salvador, had he ever dreamed of this job, would have been at home, though it would sound like on the road against Lionel Messi and Inter Miami.
Just a massive amount of inexperience, though, as well, that he's having to work with. Doniga, 75% of the roster called in out of the 24 players have either never made a cap for country or only a cap within the last 18 months. And most of those guys that have been involved in that conversation in the last 18 months, you're looking anywhere from 3 to 5 caps. So not a lot of experience within the squad, but a beautiful opportunity now. And you have a pretty good idea of what it could look like. Flattening out the midfield, of course, Darwin Seren and Christian Martinez pulling the strings in there next to Melvin Cartagena. Nelson Bonilla should need no introduction. 33 years of age, and all the experience that he's had globally in Romania and Thailand and every single stop that he's been at. But all the young guys underneath, even some of the players like Brian Tamacas, who, although at 28 years of age, feels like he's still quite young, pushing a ton of appearances for El Salvador. So there is kind of that gelling motion that everything's still trying to go through for El Salvador. Much of what's going on for Inter Miami, to be fair.
73 caps for Brian Tamacas, who just re-signed his contract to stay in the United States with the Oakland Roots in USL Championship. Tomas Aviles, one of the maybe unsung additions from last year for Inter Miami, where they got the big three, of course, in Messi, Busquets, and Alba, but they also went ahead and got 3 young DPs. Fit that U22 initiative with Diego Gomez, Facundo Farias, who's on the bench tonight, and Tomas Aviles anchoring the back line. He's the only true center back playing in this game tonight for Inter Miami. DeAndre Yedlin, Noah Allen are flanking him on either side in a back three. Not traditionally in those spots. Terry Krivtsov still with the club. Kamal Miller was traded to Portland. Rumors swirling, some reports out there of Nicolas Freire might be on the way for Inter Miami. Could be a welcome addition to a back line that is kind of empty right now in terms of the center backs. Here's Alba. Aviles. You know when Messi has the ball, crowd sounds different, up a few decibels. This team changed drastically, not only in terms of the personnel last year, but in terms of the style when Tata Martino took over, as Gressel's incisive pass is knocked away. They went from a team who was near the bottom of the league in possession metrics to a team that very much values the ball. Starting to see them control it more now.
The variation stylistically is how you can tactically set up as well, right? I mean, you've been around the team for quite some time. I've certainly had the opportunity to see them grow over the years, and again, it's so astounding in the best of ways to look at them and go, this is where they've come. But even when Tata took over, they pretty much sat in the four and just, this is how we're going to play, got to get comfortable, got to find some momentum. They certainly did that and more with the League's Cup title. That gave them entrance into the 2024 CONCACAF Champions Cup right around the corner.
See, plays it through Gregory, and it blocked. Busquets, Suarez. Gressel pops it up over the top. Tamakas a glance over his shoulder.
It was within that, though, Joe. It was not just getting comfortable and finding quality. Then you can't say the depth because they were so banged up with all the injuries. Players just seem to become more versatile within their ways. So, you know, you talked about the back line tonight. Guys like Noah Allen, though certainly at the professional level, we haven't been accustomed to seeing him there. He was either at the outside back spot or moving him into a wing back position. He actually did have a ton of experience with assistant coach Javier Morales playing at that left center back spot at the academy level. So you take that experience within the organization, you work it into the first team. So now you found an extra body, right? And they seem to do that all over the pitch.
Messi trying to get back on the end of it. Almost a fortunate bounce, but it's in the hands of Mario Gonzalez.
It was battered, bruised, then champions, and the Open Cup run that almost was against the Houston Dynamo, falling just short. And so what we saw last year, where for large portions of the beginning phase of the Tata Martino and Messi era, you know, then it's the addition of Busquets. Of course, Jordi Alba follows. You know, Busquets is deep and you're just playing through him. Well, as that continued on, he started to advance forward a little bit more. Now you're looking to see, well, what does it look like when he's next to Gregory? Kremovsky's going to have a lot more freedom within the midfield as well. So these are things that they're going to take time.
Tamakas looking to service. Busquets locks it away. That partnership will be interesting to watch in the midfield between Gregory and Busquets. You alluded to it at the top of the broadcast when we took a look at the lineup. This one slipped through, but the offside flag will come up. These two guys never really had a chance to play together last year, again, because of the injuries. It was Jean Mota funneling through here and there. It was Dixon Arroyo, who has since departed the club. It was David Ruiz, the young player who is available on the bench today. Diego Gomez, who joined. But that Busquets-Gregory partnership never really had a chance. Last two games of the year, they played Charlotte back-to-back. Gregory played, but that's not enough to really get your feet wet and gain a comfort level with the player.
And anyone within the organization will tell you that prior to the arrival of Messi and all the names aforementioned, as well as, of course, the manager and Tata Martino, if there was one player that you could not lose within the squad, it was going to be Gregory. And, of course, he goes down. Now, they were the walking wounded at one point in time. I mean, it's from top to bottom, experienced youngsters, Ian Frey, Corentin Jean, Gregory, Jean Mota. Of course, most of them have made their way back or are in the process of doing so. Jean Mota currently in the works of securing his green card. And then that opens up another roster conversation, right, where now all of a sudden you're not relying on the international roster spot. He can be counted as a domestic. Ways to just tweak the system a little bit to your advantage.
Avilés through for Messi, darting at that back line, slipping it through for Gressel, squares it back. Gressel's another one you can deploy anywhere. He's been, I'd say, largely used as a right wing back throughout his career, but another piece you can move around the chessboard for Inter Miami.
Just a bit offside. But the two-time MLS Cup winner and Julian Gressel making his way to South Florida. Interesting conversation with his then manager Wilfred Nancy at the Columbus Crew, and he talked about how bringing in, yes, on the outside primarily, yes, with the speed and one of the better distributors of the ball, certainly from the wide areas, but how he really challenged him in combination play, cutting into the small areas on the inside, finding those direct routes to come to the interior to help to open up for the portions of play moving forward. And how happy he was that although the tenure was short, it was that sweet, because he just continued to get better every single time. And give credit to Julian Gressel as well, because there were plenty of times last season where it's not like he was inked into the starting 11, and yet continued to fight through, found his way, excellent form. But one wonders what could be.
Bonilla on the turn, off target. A warning to that back line. Again, a little bit makeshift. Yes, Noah Allen has played on the left side of a three, coming up through the ranks at Inter Miami. You've seen Yedlin sparingly on the right side of a three-back, but very rare. And the young Avilés, at just 19, anchoring in the middle.
And his feet just getting caught up with him as well. The momentum as center back sliding over like that. He is very good. There's no doubt about that. But some of the silly mistakes that you have to clean up, which we saw so much in 23.
Santos fumbles it.
You pivot across your body positioning. That little turn coming back across the middle, an absolute no-no. Now, the other side of that would be is, you know, in 2 weeks' time, very good chance that if that mistake is made, Sergio Busquets is there to step in, which as deep as he can play within this system.
CJ Dos Santos in goal, did get one start. It was his debut, final game of the regular season last year against Charlotte. Expect him to be on the bench this year. Drake Callender, the unquestioned #1 starter with the U.S. men's national team right now. But in a year where they have the Copa America and maybe Callender is in talks to be the third keeper for the U.S., might have to count on Dos Santos to step up a time or two. Suarez. Gressel wins it back. Suarez wrestled off his defender, but Jorge Cruz did enough to get the ball out of danger. When it comes to preseason, Devin, yes, they have a number of games coming up to work on some things, of course, before you get into the regular season. What takes the longest to breed? Is it the communication on the back end? Is it your ability in the final third? What takes the longest to finally get up to where you'd like it to be?
Certainly, it's usually situational based upon each team, how many players in, how many players out. I was quite taken back by your comments on their level of fitness that you told me about, seeing them in training the other day. And that's something that, look, Inter Miami towards the bottom of the Eastern Conference, didn't make the playoffs. Certainly had a great run, as mentioned, winning Leagues Cup and making it all the way to the final of the U.S. Open Cup. But the season ended early. That's a long period of time that these guys were dormant, if you will, at least from MLS competition, for argument's sake, right? So to challenge yourself from a fitness standpoint, that doesn't usually come right away. So to hear you tell me that in your passing with them, how high of a level they were, the quickness, all that kind of stuff, to me that bodes well. Now it's the subtle nuances that you can pick up from someone, but the good news from them is that most of these guys were here last year. And the ones that they've brought in all have a ton of experience with the roster itself. So how high of a level does it get right away? Not necessarily sure they know that answer, but do they need to know?
Gressel looking for Suarez. And those are the two who were brought in, only those two. Everybody else, maybe an addition from injury like a Gregory, but those are the only two additions at the moment for this club. And again, wealth of experience and talent for both of those players. They should have no trouble integrating.
And if it's not DeAndre Yedlin understanding what it's like to be next to Gressel, well, Gressel knows what Tata Martino wants, and Yedlin already knows that. So from a managerial standpoint, okay, there's your link up right there. Those connections are all over the pitch. It's relationships and experience together. It's current managers. It's all of that intertwined together to make this cultivation process much easier for Inter Miami this season, where it seems like every single year prior you're looking around going, what is this going to be, as opposed to what could this be? And those are two very different things. What is this going to be as the project overall going to look like, as opposed to can this team go and win everything that they really want to? Because that's what their aspirations and more so expectations are for this season. How much silverware can they bring home?
Tanaka's looking through here for Man on the receiving end. The Alba plays the corner, but Avilés his eye off of it. Forces Dos Santos to get involved. You mentioned the aspirations. We had a 12-match window of the team at full strength and full health. They were unbeaten in those 12 games, whether it was the 7 they played in Leagues Cup, the 4 they played in MLS, or the 1 Open Cup game. It was 8 wins, it was 4 draws. From that point on, that's when Messi sustained the injury while away with Argentina. Jordi Alba started to have a couple of little niggles here and there, and it started to go downhill a bit as the injuries once again reared their ugly head for Inter Miami. But those 12 games, unbeaten, and for the most part untouchable, outscored teams 33-14. Suarez looking for Kramaski. Cartagena off of Noah Allen.
The depth and role players, though, within that is what really got tested down the stretch, right? And that's where the conversation this season is very different, because you're not looking at who's going to fulfill a role in the 11 comparing to years past. You're running 3 deep in almost every single position. And so relationships one thing, depth another. Just also the advancement in every position and the quality of what you're getting. You know, the Joseph Martinez experiment didn't go the way for Inter Miami, nor so for Joseph Martinez. You know, it didn't work out the way that they wanted to, with just 12 goals in all competitions. And correct me if I'm wrong, didn't acquire 1 from the run of play during the Messi era. So that gives you an idea. And yet all of a sudden, just 20 minutes in, look at how comfortable Suarez is dropping underneath, right, in that false 9 type role. Of course he's going to play the point man up top. That never really came to full effect for Joseph Martinez. It does make you wonder, though. It's the pressure, the quality. You know, we talked about it a little bit over the MLS Super Draft in December of how things would be different. What a ball. There's so much that surrounds the squad that's outside the field of play as well. Because who doesn't want a high five from Messi?
Even that got the applause.
Amazing for Mario Gonzalez. You got to love it from the home fence. But the operational aspects of this are quite demanding. So also for an organization that is now 6 months into this process, at least on the field, off the field as well, security detail, travel, all of these things are extremely difficult. I know that's not something the everyday fan thinks about, but the players have to deal with it.
You mentioned 3 deep at basically every position of importance for this club. They're going to need it. You and I were crunching the numbers. They could play potentially a maximum of 60 games this year if they were, in theory, to make it to the final of Leagues Cup, to make it to MLS Cup final on December 7th, to make it to the Open Cup final. If they were to make it to the end of every competition they will be in this year, it could be 60 games. They're going to need that depth, especially when you have Copa America and the Euros that will see some players leave the fold. Suarez. Messi keeps it alive. Suarez hustling, and he'll win that foot race. And he will win Inter Miami a corner.
He's got the right idea on the back post, trying to pick out Gregory, and the patented little cutback. Certainly in preseason form for Luis Suarez.
Their time together at Barcelona was fruitful. 13 club trophies. When it was the 4 of them, Alba, Busquets, Suarez, and Messi. Andre Yedlin will range forward for the throw. Helped raise the Leagues Cup with Messi. And from Gregory, looking for Suarez. I meant that literally. Remember that shot from that night. Messi was sure to call over DeAndre Yedlin to lift it together, as he had been the captain before Messi's arrival. Respectfully gave up the armband to Messi when he arrived. And when it came time to lift that trophy, the League's Cup, before Messi took it into his own hands, he'll put it into Yedlin's hands. Remain El Salvador, again, haven't won a game since June 4th of 2022. That's after they had a pretty decent stretch as a national team. They were very competitive at times in World Cup qualifying. Go back to the 2021 Gold Cup and made it to the quarterfinal. Played and were eliminated in one of the games of the tournament against Qatar in the quarterfinals. And then it just sort of went away. Whether it was the mix of players, the coaching, all of the above. It has gone silent over the last year. 13 matches, 7 losses, 6 draws, no wins. Relegated in Nations League, bottom of their group last summer in the Gold Cup. That included a surprise loss to Martinique to begin the tournament.
And the era of Hugo Perez gone, and to your point, I can remember them back in 2021 and how competitive they were. You know, Eric Zabaleta had come in, showed himself along the back line. Now there are some guys, of course, like Bonilla up top and Mario Gonzalez in goal. They're the mainstays that you're always going to hear. Darren Seren as well, but a lot of players that Hugo Perez did such a good job. You made the comment to me off air about the dual internationals and finding the guys with dual citizenship, finding a way to get them to commit to this process, and they were finding success. Ooh. Well, how do you do from Jordi Alba?
Mid-season form. Not opening friendly there from Alba. Not dirty, they were in the lines.
Thought.
Maybe it was received differently by Brian Tamakas.
Sunday League, you walk up behind me and give me a swing like that, and let's see the response.
Yedlin commits the foul. Comes down Diego Flores. It skims through, and it's just wide from Darwin Seren. A couple of careless moments at the back for Inter Miami in the first 25 minutes. The shots have actually belonged to El Salvador.
Well, the separation up top between the two strikers, and Bonilla and Ferman, have gotten a little bit wider, so you needed the extra stretch coming out of the midfield. Darwin Seren recognizing it, and it's one of the more difficult balls to take coming across your body. The English that's on it moving away from you to catch it clean. Very difficult to do.
Darwin Seren, a name familiar to MLS fans, as Brian Tamakas is down now nursing an injury. Seren started with Orlando 2015-2016 and spent 2 years in San Jose. And eventually a nice stint with Houston from 2018 to 2022. All told, 183 appearances in his MLS career. Won a U.S. Open Cup with the Houston Dynamo. Seren just joined CD Aguila domestically in El Salvador last January. He's been a stalwart for El Salvador. So too has Brian Tamakas. 73 caps for his nation. He's the one still nursing something off of the side that necessitated this stop and play. Seren, 34 years of age, started every Gold Cup game for El Salvador from 2013 to 2021. went away from the national team for a little bit, brought right back in. And when you're a new coach like David Doniga, yes, you want to turn the leaf. You mentioned, Devin, all the new faces who are happy to see that face tonight. All the new faces for El Salvador who don't have a cap or only have maybe a handful, if even. You need some sort of elder statesman, some leadership. That's what Seren brings to the group on a night like this. Gregory, nobody making that trailing run. I wonder how long players go tonight. For Tata Martino, is it pre-planned? Is it a feel of the game?
Sounds like a challenge extended to me. The loser buys dinner.
On the one hand, I don't know that he wants to push guys beyond their limits with the schedule they have coming up. On the other hand, I don't know if he'd be happy at 0-0 going into halftime, and maybe would want to see something. Oh, Allen, one of the first of the bright young talents that broke through for Inter Miami. The homegrowns, including Benja Kramaski, Ruiz, among others. Over the top towards Suarez, diving header away. Corner coming.
Just effortless in nature, by the way. They just carved right through El Salvador. Slowed down and then quickly Gressel just recognizing the space in behind. Nice little ball to the backside and almost completes. And Benja Kramaski loves what we saw from no one out. How's the touch from Luis Suarez?
Still good as ever. It goes down in the 18. Wanted a penalty waved off. He'll be 37 next week. Gonzalez punches. El Salvador settles. Seren looks ahead. Some space for Cartagena. From here, it's to Dallas for Inter Miami on the 22nd. And they'll head to Saudi Arabia, Al Hilal on January 29th. And the matchup with Ronaldo's Al Nassr on February 1st. It's Hong Kong on February 4th. Vissel Kobe in Japan on February 7th. And it ends back at home against Messi's boyhood club, Newell's Old Boys, on February 15th. Season begins the 21st against Real Salt Lake. Catch that one, of course, on Apple MLS Season Pass. Loaded schedule for week 1 of the season. Begins and ends with Inter Miami. 21st against Real Salt Lake. 4 days later on the 25th against LA Galaxy.
Plenty of frequent flyer miles. Although I'm not
as many as you can
in this
possibly
day and age,
rack up.
Most everybody's on private, but still.
Gressel. 23,000 miles again, rough total that they will fly over the next 3 weeks.
With all the training scattered in between, as well as the games, and then travel itself, time zones, it's going to do a number on your body.
I was just about to say, my main concern would be knowing what time and what day it is. I don't know that anyway without the travel, but with the travel, it's a different discussion. Tanaka still playing through whatever was nagging him a few moments ago. Doesn't look right. He's hobbling just a bit. For that last play he made, he's wiggling that right leg again. Suarez wanted to do better with that one. After his outstanding 2010 World Cup, from there just went on to an outstanding decade Luis Suarez, beginning with Liverpool in 2011, ending with Barcelona in 2020. Over that span, for those two clubs, 416 games, 277 goals, 159 assists.
It's just rude. Honestly, I still can't believe that it's been. When did he leave Liverpool?
2014, 10 years.
That is otherworldly to me, that it's been a decade since he wore red for them. It doesn't seem that long, does it?
In my mind, for whatever reason, it felt like he was at Liverpool almost longer than he was at Barcelona, but that was not the case. He was at Barcelona twice as long, and then from there, Atletico Madrid, Nacional, Gremio, and here. Looked ahead, and Dos Santos again sprawling to make a save. It was Tamacas that time. Devin, there's been a few moments where napping at the back, the white jersey squeaks through, and Dos Santos doesn't make a few saves.
Well, the thing about the back three tonight is that they are very aggressive, and I'm sure that level of positive nature that Tata Martino is going to have for his squad this season will change over time. You'll have to tailor it right depending on the squad that you're matched up against, but for Noah Allen, DeAndre Yedlin, two players used to being on the outside, on the go, comfortable with the ball at their feet, moving in transition. For that to be part of your bread and butter, to just shut that out, that's not an everyday thing that you normally can just pick up. What a leave.
Jordi Alba plays it through. Messi and Gressel calling for it. Side flag comes up. Julian Gressel will go down as one of those guys who just is exactly what you wanted coming through the American system. Went to college at Providence. Incredibly successful career in MLS that he was able to then turn into gaining his U.S. citizenship from his native Germany and turning that into playing for the U.S. men's national team. Terrific career, has seen 2 MLS Cups, Campeones Cup and Open Cup. That first MLS Cup he won with Tata Martino in Atlanta. Now 30, and still one of those guys that you just want on a team that has title aspirations. Arlington Nagbe is another one of those players that comes to mind, where every team he's with just seems to win, but Gressel in that conversation as well. Maybe it's why Columbus won. They were on that same team. Messi picks it up in a pocket of space after a giveaway. 10 to go in this first half. Messi deflected. Tamacas just gave the signal behind the play for a substitution.
He's done, unfortunately. Just not on the same page there, the run by Gregory and Messi trying to find him.
Busquets, Messi looking back for Busquets, back for Messi, save! The rebound, saved again! First moment that Inter Miami has sprung to life offensively, and Mario Gonzalez shuts the door twice.
You wonder what it would look like.
There it is.
36 minutes in, lightning in a bottle. Something that's, you would imagine, going to be replicated numerous times this year. The way that Busquets reaches out and just plucks this thing out of midair to drop it in front of Messi.
Anything that you're ever taught about center of gravity and how if your body's out of control, you can't control the ball, goes out the window with Busquets. The way he elongates himself, but still has the composure and touch as if the ball is right at his feet. Well, Allen pressuring too much. How about this crowd, by the way? It's just one of those nights that you're happy to be here. Whenever El Salvador has come close to scoring, they've gone ahead and cheered. When this happened, they were cheering.
So that's one touch, but this second one right there. I mean, he recognizes that the only place that he can put the ball is in front of the path of Messi. But to actually be able to get it there is another one, because Suarez recognizes that, okay, I can bring this out and bring it back to the top of the 18. But Busquets on the second touch to come back across to Messi, who just continues to follow through. Woo. Human cheat codes.
And they're all on the same team.
Exactly.
Remember the last time, maybe not ever, that there's been this prohibitive of a favorite on paper going into a season. That's why you play the game. It's a long road between February 21st against Real Salt Lake and an MLS Cup on December 7th. But who's going to step up against this team that, again, when at full strength last year for just those 12 games before the Messi injury, were unbeaten. 8 wins, 4 draws. And never out of games, by the way, either. Remember in Leagues Cup on the road against Dallas, down 2 goals, ended up winning in penalties. Same goes against Cincy in Open Cup. Flag stayed down that time. Back line of Inter Miami stopped as if it was coming up. DeAndre Yedlin just shot a look over to the assistant referee.
He seemed to be off, didn't he? A little step up by Yedlin. The promise was problems for Tomas Aviles. And look, it's one thing, Joe, about 10 minutes ago, talking about how aggressive your 2 outside center backs can be in Noah Allen and DeAndre Yedlin because of their upbringing and pedigree. But Avila still has to recognize the relationships between the 3 tonight. They've really struggled. And triumvirate on the back line. You think about it, though, if the rumors do come true, with Nicolas Freire coming over from Pumas, you know, that'll help shore up the left side of that back line. He can also play in that outside back spot if needed. Though with the depth that you have there, and Jordi Alba, Noah Allen, and Negri is also making his way back from injury last season. Man, every time you turned on an Inter Miami game from April until June, it's looked like someone was being out for the year, right?
Played through for Alba, flag down, save made, Mario Gonzalez. And he's popping up on some radars after tonight. The first half he's having here, denying Messi, denying Alba. Save better than the last.
The Alianza legend, who shows you why he has been the preferred #1 for El Salvador for quite some time. Woo. The reach back across, a little surprise. Jordi Alba didn't try and go low there. Better ball movement, though, from Inter Miami the past couple of minutes.
Messi's corner. Goes through for Suarez. Pop back over the top to the far post. Julian Gressel hoping somebody was there to tap it in.
There's a great little love tap by Rudy Clavel on the tail end of this thing to prohibit the ability of that ball right there as it's played through. Boom. Little shoulder charge on the backside of Tomas Aviles.
Not in his nature, but would you rather seen Gressel go to goal from where he was?
Yeah, again, these are the things that you start to work out in preseason when everybody's just trying to find a way to be comfortable. It's dead ball situations, the second and third opportunity coming back in. Confidence is, it's not a new manager, it's a new environment. You're not upset at that position. Everybody's just trying to figure things out. Try it now, right? Then you have it in the back pocket for later.
Kamaski, we learned last year, has about as tough a motor as anybody you will find around the league. That is what is going to make him a valuable asset in this midfield as this season goes along. The strides he's made in such a short time for the teenager. Became the first in MLS history to complete the pathway from academy to next pro to MLS to the U.S. men's national team when he debuted in a friendly last year for the U.S. against Oman. Tamaka's still charging out there after, remember, he signaled for a substitution about 7 minutes ago. Still carrying on, still hobbling, looking over at the bench now.
What an opportunity Kromowski has, because it's one thing to work your way into a squad, right? But to have players around you with all the experience, like a Messi, like a Suarez, and then you're also talking about working into the national team rotation, right? I mean, I was saying to you before coming on air that back in 2021, prior to Kromowski coming to Inter Miami and their academy system, he was with Weston. Now, Weston is one of the youth programs in the South Florida area that Miami has done a very good job, that kind of that feeder band into the professional organization. And he won the Golden Ball. His team won the U16 MLS Next title, and it wasn't difficult to see that he was just that far advanced compared to everybody else. The biggest thing, certainly speed of play, to me it's the physical side for him. Because looking at him 2.5 years ago, he looked like a boy. Now he looks like a young man, and he can compete with some of the best in the business. And so physically, the way that he positions his body, actual skill sets running through them, being better than everybody is one thing. Having to adjust because other talent levels around you are just as high as another, and he's done it almost seamlessly.
You mentioned it earlier in terms of consistency with the ball in regards to Tomas Avilés, but that's something for Kromowski this year as well. There were some games last year where it was giveaway after giveaway. He'd put his head down and it would snowball. There were other games where he would start pinging balls as if he was Messi. So it's a matter of finding that consistency for, again, a teenager. It's going to come with time.
Recognizing that you don't always have to play that ball. Being the guy doesn't have to be his thing anymore. Taking that pressure off of you, slow the game down. Just allow it to come gradually. Ping it around the park, little touches, right? The game will come quicker, and it comes a lot easier as well.
There's a man who could slow that game down. Busquets. Allen. Suarez, Messi from Busquets through to Kromowski. And too strong for Messi. But those are the link-ups that you'll slowly start to getting. Busquets and Suarez and Messi. There was a moment last year against LAFC in that thrashing by Inter Miami where it was Alba and Busquets and Messi combining for a goal.
You know, the ball just checked up a little bit further than Kromowski would have liked. Hands on his head. He knows that it got away from him. Just the way that it touched. There's a ton of pace on the ball. Very difficult to bring down. And so that slight hesitation misses the combination with Messi coming through the middle. Credit to Salvador, by the way. You and I both looked at this lineup from Inter Miami coming in, contrasting to what we saw from the home squad, and thought this could get out of hand. I mean, it had that kind of look about it because of the inexperience overall for El Salvador, and just to be honest, the quality on the other side of the field. And yet, one could argue that some of the better attacking chances, although over the last 5 minutes have been better for Inter Miami. Probably the brunt came from El Salvador the early portion of this first half.
First 35 minutes,
yeah, it was at 30, 35 minutes for sure.
He goes down, wanted a free kick, and I believe the whistle obliges. So right before halftime, we're going to have a free kick for Messi in Messi territory.
Definitely catches him on the follow-through. One looked like from that angle that that actually tells a different story there. The first one, it looked like he followed through and actually got the ball. That paints a different picture coming from that camera view.
66 direct free kick goals. Tied for 5th most all-time with the man who helped bring him here, David Beckham.
Mario Gonzalez, I'm putting 11 in front of the wall. What a first half the goalkeeper has had, but now you're tempting fate.
Only 2 in the wall, but all throughout the rest of the box. I can't say I've seen this, but Messi goes low. I have never seen a look like that. It might have confused Messi as well, and we'll head to halftime scoreless.
All jokes aside, there was about 20 players in front of Mario Gonzalez. Not the best of starts for Inter Miami, but certainly the overall quality of play for the visitors on the uptick as the first half comes to a completion. Tip of the cap to the goalkeeper, Mario Gonzalez from El Salvador, who did a tremendous job in the first half for the chances that did come for the visitors.
See now how long some of these guys will go, but first impressions with us this evening. The preseason kickoff for Inter Miami. On the El Salvador side, Tereso Benitez came on for Brian Tamacas, and then for Inter Miami, it was the big four who came off: Suarez, Messi, Busquets, and Alba. In their places, McVeigh, Ruiz, Campana. And Farias. Well, certainly will change the mood of the crowd a little bit with those four off.
Inter Miami's going to tweak themselves tactically just a little bit as well. Shift into a four with what would imagine would be a fun little double pivot underneath. Now Campana all of a sudden becomes the lone striker up top. Again, this is what we alluded to in the first half. If you're just joining us, the ability to fluctuate. A multitude of systems here for Tata Martino.
The roar you heard was Messi coming back out of the tunnel to take his spot on the bench. The scene pre-game was incredible as well. The way the stadium constructed their balconies where people could look out over the team arrival area, and everybody was flocked to the railings, phones out, pointing toward the bus, just waiting for Messi to step off the bus. And certain enough, he was the last player off of the bus, so everybody was kept waiting until the final moments.
To find out who makes the coconut cup, because that company has to have skyrocketed now. Messi wasn't holding it this time. That's a rough challenge.
Diego Flores will receive the first yellow card of the match.
Ooh. Not just rough, but dangerous. Two-footed. Wrapped around Julian Gressel.
That right there is part of the reason those players have joined forces again. The smiles on the faces, the friendships, the history runs deep. And it just seems from the outside looking in as if they are kids playing the sport they love again. Forget about endorsements and contracts and money and everything else that comes with it. They're just four best friends who are playing together on the same team again. They wear it all over their faces. And it's maybe not something you like to see as the opposition, because it means a difficult day at the office for you. They're enjoying every minute of it.
Once again, though, Nelson Bonilla getting the best of the back line for Inter Miami. Tomas Aviles. He had that one turn about 10 minutes in where he cut back across the middle. It just seems like his hips and his feet out of sequence. One bobbed, one weave.
He's a tall, lanky, young center back. You know what that feels like. And he's
all
finding
too well.
himself
All too well
as he goes along. The free kick toward the end line. Dos Santos rises through, blasted into the 13th row. They have high hopes for Aviles, not only Inter Miami, but on the national team level for Argentina. He is not that far removed from the U20 World Cup, made 2 starts last May for Argentina at the U20 World Cup. Has the size, has the physical attributes. It's just a matter of what's between the ears and what he's able to do with the ball. And again, that's probably what takes the longest to cultivate with a young center back. The question becomes for Inter Miami, as they have these aspirations of lifting every piece of hardware possible this year, are you willing to take some of those growing pains with a 19-year-old as the year unfolds? At a position where they are rather thin as is. After they gave up Kamal Miller in that trade to Portland. Sergei Krivtsov there as a seasoned veteran center back. And again, all the stories and reports have come out from various outlets that Nicolas Freire coming over from Pumas. That'll help, but still, you could have a teenager anchoring things at the back.
a bad ball. Pretty tight. Moved by Diego Flores up over the top behind DeAndre Yedlin. Speaking of which, you like the new Predators? Everybody's rocking?
In the trunk of my car, have
easy.
have my 2014s that are starting to rip at the soles, and I just noticed it last week, and I was distraught.
Oh, wow.
They're almost a decade. They are a decade old now, actually, and I don't know how much longer they have. So I'm partial to the old ones, but whipped in from the free kick.
Interesting, by the way, that old to you is 2014 when the boots themselves are modeled after iconic versions prior to that. Lovely.
At the back post here. The white jerseys had a crack at it. Among them, here Ferman. Ferman, the 27-year-old, only making his third appearance for El Salvador. His two previous appearances just came in November. Back-to-back friendlies they had against Curacao. Clavel sneaks it through. Darwin Seren. Salvador, the aggressors, to begin the second half after the substitutions made by Inter Miami, bringing off the big four. These might be the most important moments of this preseason, though, for Inter Miami as they go through tonight and the next 6 games. What do they look like when those big four are off the field? Now, don't foresee Sergio Busquets or Jordi Alba stepping back into the lineup for Spain. They've both said they're done. Never say never, but they've both said they're done. But
that page is turned. Keep going.
I would imagine so. Come to Copa America, you might not see Luis Suarez for 6 games, 5 games. You might not see Messi for 5 games, 6 games. So this could mimic a little bit of what you're going to see at times this year because of national team duty. You hope not because of injury, and it's just because of national team duty. At these moments, when those 4 are off the field, what does it look like for Inter Miami?
Which is where they hit a wall last year, to be fair, right? And you and I had some friendly conversations off air about, the run-in and points per game model in order to get in. Would Inter Miami be able to do it? You mentioned injury, of course. The Messi injury was the biggest talking point of what never was, but even throughout substitutions, just not even necessarily raising the level. Obviously, that's not going to happen, but the maintenance of it, dropping off is one thing. Catastrophic cannot happen, and we saw that too frequently last year. I do like, by the way, this look that they've gone with Inter Miami. It mimics some of what we saw early on in 2023, where it was a left side of Franco Negri, and if you remember at that point in time, Nico Stefanelli was operating out on the left-hand flank, and they would push so high, of course, in the advancement of the left back spot. Negri can cover a ton of ground, and Stefanelli, would just float back through into these central locations. So all of a sudden, you'd run a 4 or 5 man midfield. Similar ideas here with Farias. It just allows him to operate underneath Campana. It also gives Campana the freedom to roam because Farias is so comfortable so high. Options galore. So it's not as linear as you've seen in certain looks so far for Inter Miami this evening.
Inter Miami fans tuning in, eyes might take some adjusting for that picture right there. Leo Campana in the number 8 kit after having been the number 9. But when Luis Suarez waltzes into camp, you're probably giving up the number 9. I wonder if anything changed hands there in that transaction, if he at least got a dinner out of it. But Campana goes to 8, which was previously Diego Gomez, if you're keeping track at home. Diego Gomez now number 20. Suarez gets number 9. They're just numbers on jerseys, but it feels like they mean so much more.
Oh, yeah, they do. It was bad luck to have a 9 in the back. 9 is my lucky number. But as you get older, it's bad luck to have a 9 on the back line. I always found variations of the number.
99?
No. I wasn't that deep on the depth chart. 45 when I was in Hamburg. But
Okay.
4 and 5 was 9.
Russell in Ruiz. He took a nasty nasty little knock at the end of that.
Second
on the
one on that.
follow-through.
Second one on that ankle, by the way.
That trailing right leg that got his right foot.
Yeah, the toe, it looked like. His explosions, like the clean touches coming back through to lure a defender in, and then all of a sudden, it just pops right up in front of him, whoop, just like that, and he catch that clean run to the front post. And Gressel making friends.
Atlanta, DC, Vancouver, Columbus. His stops before Inter Miami. Started last year with Vancouver before the trade to Columbus. That culminated in lifting MLS Cup. Here's Campana. Quite the name for himself in the number 9. See what his history features now as the number 8. Second in club history, a young club history, but second in club history nonetheless in goals. Behind Gonzalo Higuain with 23 for Leo Campana. Free kick in a good spot here by Facundo Farias.
And here's the good one, 12 minutes in. Who feels special over the desired number 10 that is no longer donning his presence for Inter Miami? Messi's night is done. Who wins this argument? 25 plus out. Got to be Campana.
See most poised, it will be Leo Campana. Would have been interesting had it gotten past the defender and into Mario Gonzalez's orbit. Farias, Gressel, floated back post. Gonzalez fumbles, but has it on the second bounce. It was always interesting last year how things would look for Inter Miami in the attack when it was Martinez versus when it was Campana. Two very different striker profiles, those two. They seemed to have more success when they had Campana out there stylistically. Maybe it was because of the form Martinez was in, but it just felt like they were more dangerous when they had that big body hold-up player. Campana at the top. Formed a good partnership with Messi down the stretch. The game in Cincinnati in Open Cup. Sticks out, scored those 2 late goals to tie it. Both Messi to Campana. Chris McVeigh, somebody who was a regular, relied upon heavily 2 years ago, played all but 20 minutes of the 2022 season, and the 20 minutes he missed, he made a mistake and was subbed off and was not happy about it. Only 20 minutes he missed all year. Last year, of course, with all the roster changes and the struggles they had early, played 16 games in the regular season. He did not have a single league appearance after July 1st. Fell completely out of favor. So you wonder some of the limitations they have right now in terms of the numbers on the back line. Where does he fit into all of this? That's somebody who's playing for a spot, perhaps, as they go through the preseason.
Well, the good news for Christmas McVeigh is he can play anywhere on the back line. Right, so left-sided, right-sided, outside marking back, 3, 4. Again, preferred choice is one thing, but the ability to do it is another. Quality of testament to Tata Martino, his coaching staff, and the recognition of the biggest assets a player possesses.
Ruiz.
About the amount of eyes with the addition of, yes, I get it, it's messy, and I'm not discrediting any of that. We're also 7 months into that conversation now, right? Last time I checked, it's 7 months.
July?
Six.
6.
That's why you're here.
I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. It was announced 7 months ago.
That's what I was leading into, exactly. And so as we've gone on, and it's Messi, it's Busquets, all of a sudden, you know, all the names that have started to make waves here into the Inter-Miami conversation and what that looks like in the relationship for MLS and Apple. They're the eyes truly of the world upon the American footballing landscape. As the night for Nelson Bonilla is done. Not a bad showing for 33-year-old up top.
Steven Vasquez, 21-year-old, takes his spot. 7 appearances for El Salvador with 1 goal. Played in the final 3 World Cup qualifiers. Had waited a while before he got back into the fold. But again, with a new head coach and trying to resurrect this program from what is among the deepest depths they've been in. Turn things around after a winless 2023. Start turning back to some of that young blood like a Vasquez.
Oh, oh.
A little extra nudge at the end of that as well. Tempers flaring here. Just the 2 yellows given, it seemed, to Gregory and to Darwin Seren right away. I don't know that on a night with VAR, Darwin Seren would still be in this game.
It's definitely a friendly game.
Watch what he does at the end of this. Well, not here, but
there's the push through
there.
And then there again as well. I mean, to be fair, on the kick out, might have an argument for Gregory. Just a stern talking to. Gregory's role will be interesting this year too. You know, we spoke about him and his relationship of what could be, ouch, alongside Sergio Busquets. And though Busquets was primarily the deeper single pivot, in the first half, you know, you saw some side-by-side collaborative efforts there. He seemed uncomfortable that high on a regular basis, Gregory. Not that he can't be there, but that's going to be a role that he's going to have to become more comfortable in, right? Given the names that are around this squad, and if he is to be that mainstay that we had seen in so many matches prior, he continues to do so. But then immediately in the second half, you flip the switch. You're right back in the friendly confines of what is really a 40-yard square. For him, at least.
And it's interesting that you have playing alongside of him right now David Ruiz, who was another one of those homegrowns who, out of necessity, played more minutes than anybody thought he would have played last year. 19 years old, played 20 games last season after signing his homegrown deal at the end of April. That catapulted him into the national team conversation for Honduras. Made his debut in a CONCACAF Nations League game. And between Busquets and Gregory, and look out here, Dos Santos doesn't get it elevated enough off the chest of Ferman. They handle it in the end. But you have Gregory, you have Jean Mota eventually when he gets that green card and re-enters the fray. Busquets, and where's David Ruiz left in all of this as well, who at times last year seemed to be one of the really strong options in that position.
Yeah, and one of the best things about him is the unbridled exuberance that he brings to the game. There's a naivety about him as well, that the moment's never too big for him to just continue to push and play through it. But now you're going to have to find a way to work through those moments because of all the names you brought up. Another line change for Inter Miami. Julian Gressel will depart with the additions of Robert Taylor. Krivtsov will come in. There's a Ryan Saylor sighting. Last but not least, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe, yes it is. You'll see the addition of Lawson Sunderland as well. Another one of the young talents for Inter Miami. Lawson Sunderland, just only 2 years of age. primarily employing his trade with the MLS Next Pro team and to Miami too. Of course they needed another midfielder. It's
41 games at the Next Pro level over the last 2 years for Sunderland. 7 goals, 3 assists. That team really went as he went in the midfield as the year went along with the injuries to the first team, and he had to come up and be on that first team bench more often than not. The form of the second team suffered. Showed you the importance he had there and the possible impacts he could have up here. Although a lot of players in front of him at different positions, which is just again a testament to the depth and player development of this club. For such a young club still, began play 4 years ago, the young players they've been able to produce, it's among the top in the league in such a short span.
Which is the recognition of the talent pool in what is one of the best in the United States and the South Florida market. Being able to wrap their hands all around such a deep pocket of experience and talent on the youth side of things, so consistent for so long. We mentioned the Weston Club earlier for Benjamin Kremoski. They've produced a national title winner, which sounds like, oh, no big deal. Not many clubs have done that. And it seems that almost every single player that has come through this academy system has not only done so coming out of really a lot of conversations from that Weston club, but it's not one guy that's been there. They've done a very good job of 3, 4, 5 years players now, right? 5th season for MLS and Inter Miami, and their academy system has just continued to reap the rewards. Western Conference, I would say the same thing very similarly, although the timeline is advanced by about 3 years for LAFC.
Similarly situated as well, a lot of talent in the LA area, and just doing all they can to embrace that rather than shy away from it in any way. Concern now is Farias, who went down holding his left leg. Tempers are still flaring here between Gregory and Seren. They're going to be separated by the official as they're barking at each other. Doniga has certainly gotten his steps in the technical area tonight for El Salvador in his first match in charge of this national team. Working on that left knee, Farias. Probably, maybe not probably, it seems like there's not much of an argument about it. He was the best of the 3 U22 initiative signing players from last year between Avilés, Gomez, and Farias. The impact he was able to have, the partnership he started to form with Messi, produced 3 goals and 2 assists in MLS play. Another goal contribution in US Open Cup. Farias, one they're counting on undoubtedly this season.
His energy was quite contagious every single time, and a lot of that was coming off the bench, right? But anytime you have a player who has the talent, that's great, but can acclimate themselves to the overall field of play and what the conditions are like, right? So they're coming in and it's a heated game. Okay, that's one thing. It's physical, that's 2. That tackle, by the way, angle, not the best of looks. Every single situation that he was stepping into, just seamless in nature, the transition to be able to pick up exactly what that game needed.
The one that sticks out as far as matches that he started, the one on the road against LAFC, early going, it was a barrage of opportunities for LAFC. Drake Callender made save after save, keeping them in. And then all of a sudden, coming down the other side, Farias sliding from the corner of the box, put it off the far post and in. And you wondered how he, A, won foot race to get there, and B, finished it off. And that play alone really encapsulated what he can bring to this team. But it seems like there's a lot of concern here now That last angle, he showed a very awkward bend in the knee, and he'll be carried off here. It's on Salvador. Tears.
Yeah, you're just hoping this is a precaution, although that picture doesn't seem to be telling the story that Inter Miami is hoping for.
You are keeping track at home, 19 minutes to go. No official substitution rules of engagement were communicated to us before this game, and they had used already 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them. So we don't know what the rules were, if they can even bring somebody on now for Farias, or if they'll play down a man, because they didn't bring anybody on for him there. He came off. But that is the absolute last thing you wanted to see tonight, or on the 22nd or the 29th, 1st, 4th, or 15th in these 7 preseason games for Inter Miami. Flag comes up here. Salvador and Devin, earlier you were talking about how last season it felt like every time you turned on Inter Miami in the early and mid portion of the season, somebody was going down, and it wasn't just an ankle or a shoulder that would cost you, I don't know, a couple of weeks, or a wrist. It was severe injuries.
Season-ending.
Season-ending near season-ending injuries in the case of Gregory, who happened to come back the last 2 games with a foot injury. Everything was severe. Incredibly bad luck they had last year with all the injuries. It's one thing if it's a high ankle sprain that costs you a month to 2 months. Not to diminish that injury. Been through it, don't like it. No. Never want to be there again, but everything was season-ending.
To your point, Jean Monta was out. Well, what the timeline was given and what actually took place were 2 different things, but LCL thought was 4 to 6 months. Ian Frey, ACL. Gregory, Liz Frank injury. Franco Negri, right ACL. Corentin Jean, ACL. There's 5. Did I forget one?
I think that's it. It was just endless as the year went along.
And also with a lot of changeover as well, because, look, the 9 position.
Eller through, gets it back from Campana almost.
There was Campana, there was Joseph Martinez. I mean, at one point in time, Schneider Borgelin, who's still on contract here at Inter Miami, but he was involved in the mix. Pizarro's contract was bought out mid-July to make way for all of the moves that were coming in. Emerson Rodriguez sent on loan to Santos. You know, there was the trade that brought Kamal Miller to Inter Miami that saw Ariel Lassiter and Bryce Duke take off across the border. I mean, right there, including the loan by Jake LaCava, which for Inter Miami fans, that's not a name they knew. He was primarily loaned out. That's fine. That's 12 players. If you remove LaCava, 11. First team experience, regularly involved in the case conversation for squad selection, gone.
There were portions of the season last year where only a trio of guys who were consistently there from the beginning of the year to the end for Inter Miami. Ruiz finds a way to the end line here. David Ruiz sneaks it in front. Gonzalez has it. And those 3 guys were Yedlin, Krivtsov, Calendar. Outside of those 3 guys, it felt like somebody at some point had something wrong. Salvador preparing some changes now over on their bench as Cartagena gives it away. And Sailor. Another one like Chris McVeigh, currently on this back line, who 2 years ago had a big role. Last year, sort of go away with just one league appearance after the beginning of July.
Noah Allen's he's pretty comfortable, and they've shifted into a 3 again, and as he's come higher, certainly in the absence of Farias, he's come a little bit more advanced, down underneath Campana, trying to find a way to work off of each other. Problem is the counterpart on the other side, Robert Taylor, substitute, haven't gotten him involved at all. Guess they're not going to give Cole Jensen a run at attacking mid.
On the top here for Diego Flores, and again the offside flag comes up. So Inter Miami now out of bodies on the bench. Down Facundo Farias. Still scoreless, 14 to play. Good to have had you along this evening to begin the preseason for Inter Miami. First of 7 matches over 27 days, traversing 23,000 miles by air. With Devin Kerr, I'm Joe Malfa. All started tonight here in El Salvador. German cuts it back. Over to the back post, a sliding effort on Vasquez to no avail.
It's not a bad ball played here, just the timing of the run overall. Needed to peel back there. Instead, a little bit slow to react here for Steven Vasquez. If he recognizes that they're recirculating out on the outside, he immediately starts to retreat. Then you can attack the ball. You're coming from a wider angle as well, as opposed to trying to play catch up.
Armando Moreno, Leonardo Menjivar, the two checking in for El Salvador. Melvin Cartagena, Javier Ferman will give way.
Martini engancha a Cristian Martínez y engancha fuera de ella Melvin Cartagena.
Ruiz gave it away, but bailed out by the whistle. Dangerous position there.
David Ruiz, a bit fortunate. Darwin certainly knows that's the case for the refereeing crew tonight. Not happy with the whistle blown there. Can't say I blame him.
See at the end of that why some of David Ruiz's teammates were upset. There was an elbow to the head. This is extreme, all the changes made by Inter Miami. But again, as the year goes along, and you talk about that pocket of time where Copa America and the Euros will be in full force, some of the names that could be missing from Inter Miami. Flag did stay down here more than a second. Armando Moreno picks it up. Moreno, fresh legs just on. Finds it in. Looks like El Salvador will be the more likely of the two sides here if there's a winner to be found late on. Continuing to force the issue. Top of the midfield, driven from distance. That won't do it.
A friendly reminder, Inter Miami is also playing the 10.
Yes, down man still, and they will be the rest of the way. Out of bodies. But some of the names they could be missing during that stretch. They won't be missing all of them in all likelihood. Some guys might not get called to their respective teams. Some guys might not see their nations qualify for these tournaments. But Drake Callender in the conversation as the third goalkeeper for the U.S. DeAndre Yedlin has consistently been called in under Greg Berhalter, possibly for Copa America. Serhii Krypsov and Ukraine have a play-in for the Euros. Same goes for Robert Taylor. Finland has a play-in for the Euros. David Ruiz has a play-in for Copa America with Honduras. Leo Campana there for Ecuador. Luis Suarez, Leo Messi, we know will be going to Uruguay and Argentina. And then Diego Gomez for Paraguay. That's 9 guys who could be gone for any length of time, could not be gone at all, depending again on who makes those tournaments. Maybe Ukraine, Finland, Honduras don't qualify, and you take 3 names off the list. It could be Yedlin and Calendar staying as well, and the list diminishes. But it's possible that 9 are gone at that given time. And if you look at the schedule, it's not positive how long some of these guys will be away. Depends how far they advance in the tournaments, but it could be anywhere from 3 to 6 games these guys miss, depending on travel schedules and how far they advance in their respective tournaments. So I'm not saying it'll be this extreme, the 8 subs they've made tonight, but there are going to be times this year where the depth is absolutely tested.
And the influx of competitions and the travel. If you're Tato Martino, and he's historically done a very good job with his staff of maneuvering these situations, you plan for the worst and hope for the best. And that's what it's going to be this season as well. Finding a way to make sure that all the depth that we talked about is on full display, that everybody feels like, you know, that quality that you've brought to the table, that you can get into the squad no matter what. You know, credit to Phil Neville last year. You know, he talked about it. I understand it didn't go the way, and there were a lot of fingers pointed at him, but there were stretches underneath him where he found a lot of really positive play out of his squad. And
on the top here, flag stays down, bar rattled. And El Salvador nearly in the 82nd minute through Steven Vasquez had a go-ahead goal.
We'll go back to that with Phil Neville in a second, but with Steven Vasquez frustrated on his timing just prior. Much better here. All night long, the space between the center backs, quite questionable for Inter Miami. And once again, Steven Vasquez just splitting that space just in between Serhii Kristoff and Ryan Saylor.
Noah Allen is out of play. It's interesting how this crowd has changed as the night has gone along. In the first half, if you were to take your eyes off of the game and just listen in, you couldn't quite tell who was going to have a scoring chance if you knew that the game was in El Salvador. It was just as loud when Inter Miami and Messi had a chance as it was for El Salvador. As those players have gone to the bench for Inter Miami, this crowd is wholeheartedly behind El Salvador now, and that last chance showed that.
Well, they're just hoping there's a winner, regardless of if it's a friendly or not. But you know, where I was going with that comment and everything that Phil Neville spoke about, he was big into the depth that had started to be created. Now, this is early on in the season, March and April, where there was a quality run of form for Inter Miami, and they had some solid victories. He talked about the depth of personnel, but that the best way to be at your top level was when you were out of your comfort zone because you were fighting for your position. That's what has been created here at Inter Miami. They didn't have that prior. So now all of a sudden there are certainly a couple of names that it's not hard to figure out who it's going to be, that are the first choice selections that are going to be sharpied into this team sheet. But other ones, like we've talked about, if it's Gregory, if it's Mota, if it's rotation and Ruiz. Now, again, you can lean one way or the other, but it's not going to be as cut and dry as we've seen in seasons past. And certainly not with all the competitions and the players in and out for international duty.
Wide free kick for El Salvador. Glancing header is out for a corner. To play in San Salvador. Set pieces starting to rise for El Salvador. Another good look there for Vasquez. Might have been going wide of that far post. Blocked anyway by Lawson Sunderland, and now for a goal kick.
Strange interchange there between Gregory and Sergio Dos Santos. Dos Santos actually called him off, seeming that he felt like the ball was going to go over, but it already touched one of his players, and Noah Allen on the far side. Not sure why he tried to leave it.
Robert Taylor for Leo Campana Ruiz on the other side. David Ruiz lost his footing. Robert Taylor, you mentioned, hadn't really done much since coming on. There was your first look at his attack going forward, but he was a man changed after Messi arrived for Inter Miami, not just in games where Messi played and was a partner for Robert Taylor, but just in general, his entire complexion changed when Messi arrived.
Well, the versatility that we talked about is very impressive for some of these guys. And a guy like Robert Taylor who can give you a little bit of everything regardless of system. So he's comfortable at the wing-back position. You can play him on the interior, down underneath in a 2-10, and certainly a great distributor of the ball. But with the arrival of Messi, the expectation changes and your level as a player starts to raise. You know, one of the things that I'll never forget is my first time departing this country and when I went to Germany. And everybody said, what was it like? It was faster, it was more physical. You have to get better, you have to will yourself to raise yourself to the level around you. And that's exactly what Robert Taylor did. So it didn't matter where he was on the pitch. He found a way to push through that threshold that he'd almost become comfortable within. I mean, certainly it's not just Messi, and it's the arrival of Tata, and you can make the argument with Messi in general, the amount of combination play that they had with each other pushed him to a career best. That's the type of stuff that you're looking for. So that even when there is a change, Joe, the level continues to go and get better, or at least be maintained.
How much of it is even just attitude and mindset, where previously they were a team that was near the bottom of the Eastern Conference in expected goals and actual goals and points, and just struggling, to now being a team that had championship expectations all of a sudden. As Messi looks like he will make his final departure this evening down the stairwell, waves farewell to the crowd. How much of it is just the mindset shift of the team itself for Robert Taylor?
Well, to me, it's two sayings. Inactivity breeds inactivity, and success breeds success. It's that simple. A positive nature. You're always looking ahead, trying to find a way, trying to better yourself. As a player, you can become stagnant in your career. And I want to be very clear. I'm not talking about Robert Taylor. We're going big picture now, right? And what the environment was like. They'd reached a point in time where they were searching for solutions to survive. They weren't trying to find a way to go and win titles. How different that viewpoint is now. And so you experience a bit of success. You score a goal. The combinations start to become more frequent in training. You stay a little bit later. You push yourself harder. Everybody else starts to do the same thing. And so the expectation within the group, I've used that word a couple of times tonight, but it's synonymous with what everybody else is trying to chase, to succeed in, right? You find that nature that makes you feel better. You want to find a way to make it happen over and over and over again. Footballers are addicts, man. They are. Trust me, like, we are creatures of habit, and we want to try and find a way to gain that feeling, that euphoric feeling of success, both as an individual and within a team. You get it once, you just want to taste it over and over again.
And that could be even the minuscule things, like if your socks are working out and you're on a winning streak, not doing laundry for a couple of weeks. It includes anything you want it to include.
Let's leave your household out of this.
90th minute here at Estadio Cuscatlan. No goals in this tale. Not yet, at least. Come close a couple of times in the second half for El Salvador. Rattling the crossbar moments ago through a Steven Vasquez header. They will leave this game with their heads held pretty high as well. First match under David Donega. A lot of new faces going up against a marquee opponent like this. After a very, very difficult year. Way to start for David Donega. Again, the Spaniard just appointed in charge of El Salvador on January 2nd. 3 minutes to go tonight in his maiden voyage as El Salvador's head coach, and Luis Suarez, his maiden voyage atop the line for Inter Miami, was subbed off with the Big Four at halftime. It'll be FC Dallas coming up next for Inter Miami on the 22nd. It'll be Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern right here on MLSsoccer.com.
Temperature's going to be a little bit different in Dallas that night. It was a balmy 26 earlier today when I started to check and see what was necessary for the carry-on bag.
Winter weather has crept a little bit further south than you might expect it to. It's interesting, the first time that Messi and friends played in Dallas, if you remember in Leagues Cup, it was triple digits, and it was very difficult to play in. Hydration breaks in either half. We're going to have about a 70-degree difference perhaps between kickoff temperatures from last time to this time of Messi Inter Miami in Dallas. Inter Miami haven't really tried forcing the issue offensively over the last quarter of an hour. And ever since Facundo Farias went down with an knee injury, and they've been playing down a man ever since, out of bodies to use as subs. Tough to glean much from this opening performance of the preseason. Sure, certain trends will become clearer and clearer with each passing game. Again, that's FC Dallas Monday. Then January 29th against Al Hilal, first of their two games in Saudi Arabia. On February 1st, it's Al Nassr, Messi against Ronaldo. February 4th, Hong Kong. February 7th, Vissel Kobe in Japan. And February 15th at home at Dry Pig Stadium against Newell's Old Boys, Messi's boyhood club. 27 days, 23,000 miles traveled by air. 7 matches played, all leading up to Inter Miami's home opener on February 21st against Real Salt Lake on MLS Season Pass on Apple TV. Gonna have one last chance here. It seems like El Salvador. 3 minutes of stoppage time will have come and gone by the time this kick is taken. Will it be 0-0, or will the home side leave with a 1-0 victory? Floated over the top, open man just wide. Flag did come up, but Vasquez misfired anyway.
Not a bad showing for Steven Vasquez with his addition into the match here in the second half. Just his 8th cap all time. A year and a half removed from his debut back in August of 2021 against 75% of this roster for El Salvador. Had either never made an appearance for country or had only done so in the past 18 months. Have to be mighty proud that looking at the starting 11 for this Inter Miami team, probably thought this could have gone a very different direction, but instead kept them at bay, kept them at 0-0, and kept themselves in the game all night long with some quality opportunities. And for Inter Miami and Tata Martino, maybe not necessarily the start that they wanted, but we are a long ways away from their desired destination, and just game 1 of the 2024 season.
Gonna look at that upcoming schedule. It's Monday against FC Dallas. Devin, what more would you want to see from them already on this 3-day turnaround from tonight into that game against Dallas?
Tata Martino is going to look for balance, right? He's going to try and find a way that maybe they start a little bit quicker defensively, shore some things up, that, you know, the back line's got to be tighter. Again, this is part of the growing process that you deal with. It's new players, it's new faces. There's familiarity within all of it, but having a final, finished product is going to take a little bit of time.
I've got plenty of time and plenty of opportunities coming up here in this preseason. The next one again this Monday, 6 p.m. Eastern on MLSsoccer.com. Inter Miami at FC Dallas. That'll do it for us tonight. It finishes 0-0 between El Salvador and Inter Miami. For the crew that makes this possible and my broadcast partner, Devin Kerr, I am Joe Malva saying so long from San Salvador. Again, it finishes 0-0. Game 1 of 7 in this preseason for Inter Miami. Plenty to come. You can catch it all on MLSsoccer.com or Apple TV.